Hi, I'm your host Vasco Duarte. Welcome to the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast, where we share tips and tricks from Scrum Masters around the world. Every day, we bring you inspiring answers to important questions that all Scrum Masters face day after day. Hello everybody, welcome to our Friday Product Owner and TGIF episode this week with Andrew Mitchell. Hey Andrew, welcome back.
Thank you.
So it's Friday, of course, we're talking about product owners and we want to understand what makes or what helps product owners be great product owners. And we'll talk about great product owners in a minute. But first, let's do the Alice in Wonderland visit to the other side of the mirror and see the anti-pattern. So share with us, Andrew, what might have been potentially the worst product owner anti-pattern you've witnessed in your career.
Yeah, I'm not going to pick on an individual. This is actually a composite of a few product owners I've worked with, and these product owners were really talented on the discovery side of things, working with stakeholders to understand what the value is we want to deliver. But what they were not good at was figuring out how to communicate that to the team and how to prioritize that. So not writing good stories, not coming up with a good prioritized backlog. A couple individuals I remember just would even reach out to individual developers during the sprint and ask them to work on something else. Those type of anti-patterns are really bad for the team. They lead to frustration. They lead to a lack of trust within the team. So when you don't have trust, you can't have psychological safety, and you just can't have a strong team performance. And those are the kind of things that I thought it was really important for us to deal with. In some instances, I would help product owners by taking some of the stories and writing what I thought were good stories, or using examples from other product owners who write good stories to help coach them to do that, and talk about the value and importance of prioritizing so that we can actually give the team focus for the sprint. But yeah, the anti-pattern of not writing good stories and being able to communicate the value we want to deliver to the team is really important. And I will just say, I think in story writing, the most important part, it's all important, but the most important part is really having good acceptance criteria. Then the engineers can know what it is they need to accomplish and how to measure that success for themselves.
And of course, one of the side advantages of having a good acceptance criteria is that it's very easy to slice the story after that. Work done by Neil Killick. He has this slicing heuristic that he wrote about, and he uses this basic idea that every acceptance criteria can be a separate story on their own if you need to slice it. So, and that's very useful if you want to get away from detailed pointing discussions and more into what are we trying to deliver.
Yeah, interesting.
So when you talk to these product owners, so these product owners that are, maybe they are really focused on the discovery, as you said, and they are really good at talking to customers and eliciting needs and understanding their situation, but then not good at communicating that to the team. Now, you said that they didn't write really good stories, and you also said that acceptance criteria or discussing acceptance criteria is a good way to write good stories. But when you look back at these cases, and as you were discussing and coaching these product owners, what do you think was kind of the blocker, maybe even the mental blocker that prevented them from communicating what they obviously had made excellent work on discovering before?
So I think most problems with individuals are really problems with organizations or organizational structures, and these organizations put high value on discovery, on understanding what's going on in the market, looking at data, looking at how users are using our tools, and how we can convert that into profit. So there's a lot of pressure on them to understand that. And then I think a belief that you can just throw it over to the engineering team and they can get it done. And product owner is a complicated role. Like I don't know how you can do it in 40 hours every week. There's a lot there. So I think there's a lot of pressure on them to spend time in discovery and then not put enough time into the valuable story writing. I think the industry needs to think about how much they've smushed discovery and what the traditional product owner role into one. I think there's just so much pressure on them to deliver on the discovery side.
Absolutely. That's a great conflict, right? Like product owners are judged by their peers and their managers for how good their discovery work is. And then, of course, no matter how good that work is, if you can't communicate it, it's lost, right? It's a huge waste. Did you, with these product owners, did you have some experience on bringing teams closer to the product owner's discovery work so that they could have some insights, like, I don't know, watching some videos if they had videos, or participating in some of the interviews? Did you do that, and did that work?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, one team I worked with, which I talked about in one of the other episodes this week, we moved towards having teams. I listened to call center interactions with customers on the end, so that the teams could understand the customers, or working with our call center folks, who are also users of part of the tools we were creating, so that actually in many cases the product owner could write very light stories, and that's why I said acceptance criteria. If you create a story with a high level of what you want to achieve and what the definition of success is, an engineer who understands the business and understands the customer can take that and implement it, and so it actually lessens their workload as a product owner.
I think that's a great point. Like, one of the hidden benefits of collaboration is that everybody does less work. Mm-hmm. Like the developers need to have less time refining because they understand the problem much better. The POs need to have less time writing because a lot of the conversation has happened by exploring the discovery problems. And everybody wins. Of course, it does take some time for the teams to go and do part of that discovery work. But once the context is there, the teams do whatever, hundreds, thousands of decisions in a sprint when developing that they don't need the product owner to make for them.
Yeah, 100%. It's actually one example that jumps to mind is that the engineers in that scenario complained that they didn't understand the goals and the direction. And so, that's a problem in itself. But once understand that, they can actually help solve the problems.
Absolutely. That was a great story. Lots of insights there, but there's still one more to come, which is, of course, the best product owner that you've ever worked with, Andrew. Describe them for us.
This product owner was a candidate for my worst product owner anti-pattern, and that just speaks to my point earlier of, I think, organization structures and processes are more important than individuals when you see behaviors that are not good. So what happened, and let me talk a little bit about how the organization changed. We moved product owners out of the technology organization and centered them into the business, so they were closer to the actual to drivers of value, so they were understanding the business needs better. They also engaged, and this is a great book as well. I've read it. Marty Cagan's book, Inspired: How to Create Tech Products That Customers Love. So that was required reading and training for all of the product owners in my organization. And so what happened? I've got some bullet points. The PO told better stories that focused on our customers, and that actually allowed the engineers, as we talked about, to focus and understand customer needs. Again, where possible, this product owner, she let them get close to our customers by listening to interactions with our customers, by working with our call center folks who use the tool and also have the day-to-day interactions with the customer. And in doing so, sometimes engineers solved problems that the product owner didn't know existed, which was beautiful. It was great to see. And she allowed that. That in the previous state of the organization, she may have seen that as a threat to her role, but as we transformed the organization, she was seeing that as a clear advantage. And she encouraged engineers to bring their own ideas forward in that way. So that was just really, really important. So I think for anyone in a product setting, the Marty Cagan Inspired book is a valuable read. It really talks about how challenging that role of product owner, product manager, as he defines it, is, and just helps set a table for maybe an organizational transformation. So the results are the team was just, moved to more self-managing. They were really just killing it day to day. They had a high level of trust and safety. And I was in that close to working myself out of a job, which is great because then I can help in other parts of the organization, service the organization. And metrics wise, I actually saw our cycle or our throughput increase, and an important metric for us, the number of days between releases went down because we were getting things out quicker because the team understood what was going on. And just generally going back to my purpose, which I talked about on Monday, the team was happier. It's more psychological safety. And I think that's really important. We have the opportunity as Scrum Masters to just help people have better work lives. And if you do that, they go home and be better fathers, mothers, parents, siblings. Like, we've got an opportunity to do something important. And it comes from having just great product owners is so important. And having this empowered product owner that allows the teams to really flourish is incredible.
Product owner is really a catalyst for high performance, or, as we saw just a minute ago, a blocker to high performance.
So true.
Andrew, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and often the root cause is the organization and organizational processes.
Very well said. Andrew, it's been a pleasure to have you here on the show. We've learned lots of stories and topics for our self-reflection checklist also in the previous episodes. So tell us a little bit more about yourself before we go, and where we can find you and know more about the work that you're doing.
Yeah, thanks, Vasco. I mean, I absolutely love to talk about Agile and Scrum. So I do a lot of that. So you can find me in a couple of places. There's in my community, we've actually gone virtual with a group called Scrum Beers Halifax. So you can find us on Meetup at Scrum Beers Halifax. I'm also on LinkedIn. You can look at my LinkedIn profile. I am happy to reach out and engage with folks and talk about Scrum, and mentor folks if they're interested. I love to do that. Feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. That's where you'll find me.
Absolutely. And why not take that opportunity and reach out and have a conversation with Andrew, share your challenges and, of course, your wins, and get a positive and helpful feedback from Andrew as well. Andrew, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for being with us this week and for your generosity with your time and your knowledge.
Well, thank you for asking. Thank you for the opportunity, and it was a real pleasure and an honor to be on your podcast.
One more week of the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast is over, but there's a lot more we have to share. We have developed our own membership site where you find a community of active and engaged Scrum Masters. In this site, you get access to exclusive content and get to interact with us, your podcast hosts, as well as the best Scrum Masters in the world. So join us at scrummasterpodcast.com and keep this podcast free of advertising. See you next week for one more full week of Scrum Master tips and tricks. We really hope you liked our show. And if you did, why not rate this podcast on Stitcher or iTunes? Share this podcast and let other Scrum Masters know about this valuable resource for their work. Remember that sharing is caring.